there's still discrimination, there's
Sure.
still prejudice here in America, and I think sometimes when people come to visit, they see that and they're startled by the fact that because we have all these things, there's still that mentality, whether it's from our parents or from the people that we interact with, that there still is prejudice and discrimination within our nation.
Sure. I think we would all agree with that. And whether it's accent or skin color or appearance or dress or age sometimes.
Or weight.
Yes. Yes, but I think, let me just say this, I think this is a human thing. And I think there's discrimination and prejudice everywhere in the world. And when you look at immigrant communities and the progress of immigrant communities by generations, it's my personal belief that the U.S. does much better at this than the European countries.
I agree.
I have lived in Europe. Okay, I've lived in Germany. I've worked for a British company. I traveled to Europe often. And when you study how immigrants assimilate or not, it's much better and much easier here than I think almost anywhere here. And we're talking about, modern progressive democracies, First world, Britain, France, Germany. And the anti-immigrant sentiment and the prejudice in Europe, I think is much worse than in the U.S.
Statistics.
Yeah, and the statistics bear it out.
I think immigrants do a lot better here compared to like other countries.
Because we're more of a melting pot. We have a lot of different people that have a form.
That's what we say.
Why do you think that is?
Oh,
I mean,
well, okay. I'll give you what I think, but I welcome the comments if you agree. This is a land. This is a country of the descendants of immigrants. Again, whether it was by choice, like the white Europeans, or by force, like the Africans. But this is a country where people came here to build and participate in something new. And there's a sense that anyone can come here and become American. I am the son of an immigrant. My father hitchhiked here in 1947. And I'm the grandson of immigrants because my grandparents on my mother's side crossed the border. There was a time when the border was open. It was not regulated. That was like before 1927. So there was people come here and become American. I am American. I'm not a Mexican. I know that I'm American. Now, I'm a Mexican American, but I'm American. And I have only to go, when I went to Europe recently, I met a new business partner. I met a woman who became my business partner. She said to me later, she said, I looked at you across the room and I could tell you were not European. And I thought, oh, darn, it shows. She could tell just by looking. I think because this is a country of people who have come here and made it work, see, that's different to Europe. Anyone can come here and become American, whether you're Chinese or African or East European or Arab. You can come here and you can become an American, and your children and grandchildren will be Americans. You cannot go to Germany and become a German. It cannot be done. You can't go to Nigeria and become a Nigerian. It doesn't work that way.
And we're not talking one generation, we're talking 3 or 4 generations.
Yeah, you can become a citizen.
Yeah, but you could never be a German.
well, my family's from Germany,
Yeah,
and 2 generations ago.
yeah,
So when we went back to Germany to
Yeah.
go visit,
yeah.
we were the American relatives.
Sure.
Even though my father spoke German fluently, because his
Yeah.
church life, all of his life was Lutheran, and they
Yeah.
spoke German in church.
Yeah.
We still were the Americans, even though he sounded exactly from the same region from which
Yeah. Yeah.
the whole family came to.
Yeah.
So I understand, weirdly, in America too, my mother's from Arkansas. She could fit right into the community because she's from Arkansas, even though she hasn't been there for about
Oh,
50 or
when she
60
goes
years.
back to Arkansas.
When she goes back to Arkansas.
Yeah.
My aunt who
Yeah.
lives there cannot break into the community,
Yeah.
even though she's been there for 50 or 60 years.
Yeah.
So, I
Yeah.
mean, even here in America, you kind of get it too. So it's odd.
I understand that, but I think when you ask me, how come it's different
And
here
specifically
compared to
in
other
Europe,
countries?
my first thought was, well, landlockedness, just, being from a certain country, unlike here in America, I just know that the pride that is there, the culture is there, you have the traditions that you're not going to have anywhere else, usually in another part of the world, unless you bring it with us someplace else.
Well,
But I just was wondering what your thoughts were on why they could not assimilate into another country.
well, I think that, okay, if you look at the worldwide, there are two big countries that are the descendants of immigrants, and that's the U.S. and Brazil. Because, like we saw in the pictures, an American can look like anyone. I mean, look around the room here, right? And Brazil is the same. Brazil was interesting to me when I worked there, that you could meet someone that was as white as you are. And if you would go home with them, and they would have all their relatives, they're always having parties. And I would go to someone's home, and I would meet their grandfather, and someone as white as you are had a black grandfather that looked 100% African. So Brazil is also this mix, just like the U.S. But I think the contrast, like to go back to Germany, since you're familiar with that, in Germany there's actually a blood law. You have to have a certain percentage of German blood to be German and to be a citizen and to vote. And there are people that have lived in, if you are not German, there are people that have been the fourth generation descendants of immigrants. Look at the Turks in Germany. There are Turks everywhere in Germany. And they're still predominantly Muslim. They're not assimilated. They don't get to blend in because the German people block them out, right? And they didn't get to vote in the national elections until 4 years ago. They couldn't even vote. Even a fourth generation descendant of Turks who's never been to Turkey, doesn't speak Turkish. His great-grandparents were Turkish. They just got to vote 4 years ago. Yeah. So I think getting back to the assimilation and to immigrants, yes, there's prejudice and discrimination because we're human. We're not that way because we're white or because we're American. Human beings are this way everywhere in the world. But in this country, we've done a pretty good thing. Okay. Any other comments? I have another piece I want to show you. I want to invite Cynthia. We want to look at 3 cross-cultural tools. Okay? So shall we go ahead and do that, and then we can talk at the end?
Yes.
Okay. Let's go there.
You want to go to?
Let's go straight to the tool.
You want to go here?
Okay. We want to do. We have 1, 2, 3, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's do these lights again. Okay. Now, just to make things simple and clear, let's say this is west, and this is the east. Okay? The idea here is the boss. And in the west, the boss is the same size as everyone else. Okay? In the east, the boss is much more powerful. We could almost say north and south. If we were doing a workshop on the U.S. and Mexico, this would be the U.S., that would be Mexico. If we were doing a workshop on England and India, this would be England, that would be India. Okay? Clear? All right. This is a cultural tool, and it's about power. And people in our field, they've studied these things around the world, and they have found that people